So, thank you all for coming or joining this session. How many people we got on here now? Hello, Andrea. How are you? I'm going to move the chat so I can see. Jessica's on. All right. How are you, Daisy? Sally's back. Val's back. What are you saying?
How are you? Nice haircut.
Thank you very much. I got it done in a Turkish barbers, and they don't half mess around with you in there. It's a bit strange. Thank you very much. So we're going to get going. So I've opened the door here, so it looks a bit more light, because last week the light shone right down, so you couldn't really see what I was doing. So hopefully that's a little bit better. So you will see my head sheets. I will be doing head sheets as we go. I've explained in the last few videos why head sheets are important. Also on the little YouTube page that myself and a colleague of mine, Kaylee, have been doing over lockdown, we've basically been running through there's a head sheet session on there, which is quite good to watch. It is an unlisted video, so if you want to watch it, let me know and I can send it to you. I don't want to have it on public viewing because there are people from the Academy on there. So you'll see our section in pattern here. This is quite a creative day, really, Wednesdays. We like to get a little bit mad and mental on here. So anything that I do, I like to say before we start, you may not like it. Everybody in here, especially with my guys in level 3 that we're working with, we try and get you guys to understand techniques and things from your level 2 and bring it into your own personal perspective in level 3. So the idea is primarily to get you to find your own styles and your own, what's the word I'm looking for, enjoyment with hair and what you like and what you don't like and things like that. So if I do something that you don't like, let me know. Let me know how you would have done it better or what you think could have looked a little bit nicer on it. If you don't like something I do in the fringe, give me an alternative. It's a very interactive session. So as I say, jot it in the chats or just come on the microphone and let me know, okay? But be nice, all right? Don't be too mean. So my head sheets are all drawn up, so we're going to run through those as we go. I am basically going to show you my section in Pattern Festival. So I've got a big section from my crown area, and that runs into the back of the ear. And if you missed the video on Monday, I explained why I work from my crown area and I don't work from my radial for certain sections. So refer back to that if you want to, and that's on both sides. And then I'd say that's, what's that, about ½ inch, I'd say, from the crown area into the section. I've done a big, heavy section down into very low recession. It's taken a slight, almost off rectangular section and section that away, and then a big rectangular section in the top, and then sectioned off a little triangle for a little dinky fringe, and the same on the other side. Okay, there is going to be a little bit of a difference going through this central piece. As I'm about, if I draw it on here, I couldn't section it off because it obviously sectioning really narrow sections doesn't really work too well. But I've got something that I'm going to do, a tiny little section of hair running through the shape in there. Another one in here, and then possibly another one. I've not decided just yet. But what we're looking for today is something very choppy, something very editorial. I was going to do something asymmetric, but I'm going to do that next week because next week's the last week, hopefully, that we're going to be doing these videos online. So I want to end with something quite spectacular, if you will, end with a bang. So I want to try and get every technique in one haircut next week and see if we can pass off our entire criteria for level 3 on one block. It's quite a difficult thing to do, but we're going to give it a go. So this week I want to do, my previous haircuts have all been sharp and solid and really bang, bang, and really severe outlines with severe internal technique. I wanted to do something today a little bit softer, a little bit more editorial, something that you can use in a photo shoot that works well when it's all blow dried really flat and really smooth, but also when you get caught in the wind and you want to do a weft board or something just to give it the life, it can also do so. So basically today we're going to be working with a lot of texture, a lot of softness, and move our shapes into something a little bit more creative. Okay, so we're going to start in this back section, and it's quite simple. Okay, if I have a look at my my head sheet, in this back bit, we're going to graduate this bottom piece, but we want it to be really soft and really, really light. Okay, so if I were to do a normal graduated bob, my elevation would be somewhere in about here, and I'd be leaving it quite long. But I want that to be right high. I want my elevation to be just under that 90-degree section. So if I were to work with my occipital bone and how we work classically and start pivoting that hair around, it's almost going to build too much weight on that occipital bone shape. Okay, so I'm going to cheat a little bit, all right? And I'm just going to work my way up, very steep diagonal sections, all the way into the top of my section, okay? Each one of these sections is still going to be over-directed back to the previous, so we're still creating that triangular shape. But I don't want to go through the whole process of pivoting round and then wasting time with any form of weight build-up that I'm just going to remove afterwards. Okay, so primarily I just want to get this back section still graduated, but really light and really quite a choppy feel. Okay, so let's get back. I'm going to spin her around so you can see. I'm going to push her head slightly forwards. Make sure they're all in. And take my first section central down the back. And we begin. So as I say, creative hair is not, it's not really to please anyone else. Other than if you're doing it on a guest, then yeah, you've got to please the client. But it's not, if you've got an idea, it's like that my level 3 guys who I'm working with on mining Kaylee's, they're going through a moment where, at the minute, where they're doing their final looks, or they're presenting their themed looks. So finding a mood board, finding a progress that they want to do, and finding something they're inspired by, and then producing something on a mannequin or on a client that works really, really well. And it doesn't matter if someone doesn't like it, because it's their vision and they've created it. So that is what creative hair is. It's giving you that freedom to have a play and just go a little bit crazy, which is what we're liking to do on Wednesdays, really. I don't like having something that's too classic. So when you're working your shapes in, don't be worried about if someone's not going to like it or not. It doesn't really matter too much, unless you're in a competition. I think it does matter, because you want people to like it, but hey ho. So first section is triangly from the back, and we're just working this the whole way up. This is you can do your graduated bobs like this classically, but it's just a much, much lighter feel. So I'm going to lift some right here so you can see my elevation. And a graduated bob elevation, I'd be in here somewhere, but I want to keep that high. And it looks like I'm pulling 90 degrees there, doesn't it? But if her head's forward, so if I were to pull her head up slightly, it would just tilt the hair a little bit, okay? And by working it this way, I'm keeping an awful lot of softness in my outline. So I'm making sure that I've got enough length in here to work with some softness, okay? Also remembering that mannequins on their outlines are really quite difficult to keep softness to, especially if you go too short into the nape. So do play around with it, and do be a little bit conservative with the length that you're leaving in the base, okay? So, hello, Cherie. All right?
Hi.
What are you saying?
Yeah, good.
Nice. I'm going to mute you now.
Okay.
If you have any questions, let me know. So, I'm going to swing you around again just to show you where we're going. So I do one side, then the other, then the other, then the other. It's just an even way to build up your shape and work up the back section. Okay. So make sure you're clean with your sectioning. And I'm going to spin you back round so you can see where my elevation goes. Right-handed people, you're going to come underneath on the left and over the top on the right. Always cut with graduation, always cut inside your fingers. Layering cut on the outside, so you're working on the outside of your fingers. Graduation cut on the inside. It's much more comfortable. And one for keeping your body in a very calm position and making sure that you're comfortable throughout when you're working with hair. When you get a bit older and you're still doing hair after, say, 10 years, 20 years, you've got to make sure that your body is still feeling good and you can still sort of lean and bend and things. Okay. So as we're now starting to build our little shape in the base, so spin you around again and take another section. And these are quite big sections, okay? So as you can see, that's quite a big sizable section. So don't worry too much about the size if it's quite fine hair. These blonde mannequins are quite fine, so I can get away with going a little bit thicker. And then keep my elevation nice and high and take that away. And again. So over direction is all still back to the previous. So we are still gradually building length into that front piece at the moment, okay? And then if I come into this side, I'm going to spray it down. Is there any questions so far? I haven't checked the chat. No, good. Sweet. So again, we step in slightly to the left-hand side and keep our elevation nice and high. Find your guide and take that away. And spin her around. And keep that height to your elevation. If I was going really tight in here, we'd take away all of this outline here. So that's what I mean by keeping a little bit of stability. So I can now play around with that. We've got our graduations building up, as you can see, but if I was going really tight or stepping around my shape, I'd lose all of this. So on a mannequin, it's so severe, your outlines, that we've got to keep as much length as we can so I can get in there with possibly like a razor or something if I wanted to take weight out, or just point into it severely to get that softness and that texture. All I'm focusing on is this in here at the moment, this build-up of weight. Because if that build-up of weight doesn't sit right, what we're planning in here is not going to work, because it's not going to have anywhere to connect or anywhere to push its weight from, if that makes sense. So we're controlling shape and just controlling areas of the hair at the moment. And working internally is probably the most important part of creating anything creative. So again, we start to tuck our line in and keep that elevation nice and high. Pull it down a bit. And then work that into here. So again, pull away from that baseline. And then last section, I'm going to lift nice and high to remove any form of weight off that overall outline. So if I lift that head up, that's where she naturally walks down the road. She wants to look to the floor. There we are. So we've built, that's quite soft in there. That's quite good. It's still got a build up of weight and still got a nice bit of graduation going in, but it's light. It's not really bowly and sitting here and then sitting into the base. It's got a lot of texture to it. So already that's the sort of look we're going for. So when we get all nice and creative and soft and editorial at the very end, it's got a little bit more shape to it and a little bit more structure. So head back forwards. I'm just going to finish this side, my last two sections. So again, diagonal section or diagonal section into the front. And just to show you the elevation. And keep nice and high. Because our head's up now, I'm just coming just slightly lower with my elevation. And then look to again tuck that nice and tight into the nape. Or nice and loose, sorry. And last section keeps my elevation high. So now we move on. Just check the balance. Nice, surface spin that round. And you can see that it's quite textured, isn't it? Even though I'm texturizing it up. Still got a bit of movement, still got a bit of bounce to it, but really soft little graduation in the back. All of this it's a bit ugly down here, so ignore that. That's all my externals. That's what we're going to do once the hair's dry. Okay, so I'm going to lift this up quite high, but I'm going to do that all just softening all of this down. Okay, so we're going to move on, and now we're going to move into our side pieces. So I'm going to come round to, what side should I do? What side should I do first? I'm going to do the left-hand side first. So this is now just going to be a case of working with elevation. Okay, so we know that with elevation, the higher we lift the hair, the lighter hair becomes. Michaela, what does elevation create?
Shape.
Weight. Elevation creates your weight, over direction creates your shape. Okay. It's been a while since we've been in the academy, so I'll let you off. Basically, when you're working with any haircut, elevation creates your weight, over direction creates your shape. Okay, that's really the fundamentals of where we work. The lighter you want your haircut to be, the higher you're going to lift the hair. And the more length you want to create in a certain point from shortness. So if you want to go really severely short to long, you're going to over direct that further away from where it naturally wants to sit. Because this hair in the side, for instance, this hair around the front hairline, if you want this really long to connect with a short bob in the back, it's traveling further to get back to that point. So it's inevitably going to be longer, but everything internally connects. That's the idea with over direction, is that everything internally connects, but you increase in length. Elevation creating your weight is just taking weight out of a haircut. So we're going to work with a lot of elevation here. So I'm going to start, as I say, in my left-hand side. I'm going to come around here. And remembering that I'm coming short with this, okay, I am going to be taking this length right up into here. So I want my length to sit somewhere around about jawline, probably a little bit longer, just to be on the safe side. Okay, make sure she's locked in there. And I want a really nice solid line in this side piece. So I'm going to take my first section down, which is my underneath box here. And we're going to work this triangle, slightly triangular. So I'm going to have a sort of curvy section come into that front piece. And just reach the baseline of that shape. And then clip that up and just spin it so you can see. Okay, so here was my section running here. And I've just done a slightly curved section running in from that point into just above the sideburny area, really. Okay, so with this, I'm going to connect high in the back. I'm going to do it this way so you can see. I'm going to connect nice and high up here and start to point the hair. So I don't want this internal shape to be too heavy. So club cutting would possibly make it a little bit too severe and too blunt. So I want that point cutted. And then I'm going to change to club cutting for this one section. And that slight tweak in technique is just going to give me that stability I need on my outline. I still want it to be soft, but I personally like strength in my outlines. I don't like things being too soft around the face because it's easy to flick away. If she gets caught in the wind too much, she's gonna look a little bit too windswept. So that's not something that I find is really very nice to see. So as that's come high in here, I'm now going to lower my elevation down into my side. So as we were saying, we're getting lighter and we're getting slightly heavier into here. Okay. And I want to now lower my shape down, and my arm's going to be in the way here. I'm going to try and do it without my arm being in the way. And then I'm lower, and then I'm going to come really low down here and just clean that line into the front. That's a bit too long, so I'm going to come a little bit shorter. Okay, and then again, just lift high and just take it a little bit shorter. So next section is from my point again in here, and I'm going to run that just underneath my next section, okay? Click that away, and I'm going to do the same scenario, but just lift it slightly higher. And now everything is point cut, okay? So I'm going to lift higher again in my top section, or my section behind the ears. Get rid of that. And then start to elevate these side pieces.
I have a question.
Yep.
How high do you know how to lift each section for this part, well, this section on the side? Because I know you use the bottom part as a guide, but I'm not sure how high to elevate it.
Good question. It's a difficult question to answer, really. I think it's all based on density of hair. So realistically speaking, when you're wanting to take weight out, you're not going to go from, you wouldn't go from really heavy to bang light straight away, because you're going to have a big gap in there in a big corner. So if you take the finer your sections, the smaller your change in elevation will be. So if you've got a really fine section coming in on your second section, you're going to want to lift that a tad higher, a couple of degrees higher, just so that your blend of shape is equal. We've got to think of our expansion and our expanded shape. So when we stick our finger in the plug socket and the hair all stands out on end, what do we see? We want that shape to be something like that, where it's slightly curved all the way around into the underneath. So if you're going from all the way down and then a big rise in elevation, you're going to get like a big block in there, and then that shape's then going to sit on your curve. I hope that makes sense. I don't know if that really answers your question, but gradually lift it, if that makes sense. Yes, Val?
Rob, I mean, when I get to the crown, there's a natural kind of elevation, isn't it? Like, it's like if you put a...
Yeah.
That kind of, I don't know how to explain, but the crown kind of goes high naturally, doesn't it?
Yeah,
kind of,
exactly.
If you pull the hair, unless you have it, getting really down, but it's not gonna be with the same. Well, anyway, I don't know what, but I think maybe for me it has to do also with the line.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right that the hair has every part of the hair on the head has its own natural forms of elevation, and it's out where the hair naturally grows. So in here, your natural form of elevation would be to lift it to here, but your crown is, as Val's saying, it's up and around. So you've got to, it's really looking at the densities and how high you're looking to elevate your shape to create something in classic work. And as Val's saying, you're lifting it to where it wants to be in the crown, where it's naturally lifting to. But when you're working with creative hair, like we are saying, you can lift it wherever you want to lift it to. There really are no rules. The rules are break the rules for me. Stick to but don't break the rules too much. We've got rules in level 2. Yeah, stick to the rules. You've got to know how you're creating your shapes. Level 3, see how you can get away with breaking the rules. So lift it to where you want to lift it to, but be sensible about it. Don't go mad and start lifting things here when you've got a length down here, because you could get a big corner in there, and that could defeat the object of keeping your hair soft. But I'm about to break my own rule there. Okay, so you're going to see with this, you'll think, what an absolute clown. Because what I'm about to do now is take something really short internally. Okay, and that's going to be high elevation. I don't want anything coming away from this little piece. So I've got now my first of my really small sections. I'm going to lift that, and someone's ringing me as well. It's unprofessional. So my first of my small sections. Okay, I've just missed a bit there, so give me 1 second. Get rid of that. Lovely. So this piece here, okay, it's tiny, isn't it? It's a very thin section, and if I spin it around so you can actually see, it's my first little diagonal section that we've drawn on our head sheet in here. that little small bit there. I don't know if you can actually see that, you're quite far away. But this, I'm just going to take this down because this is going to give me something that I'm looking for with my editorial shape. So I'm going to lower her and find that section again. And literally lift this really high. And I'm going to take that off. Okay, now don't be scared with this because it is such a small little section and it looks like you're going a bit mental taking some small bits out of the middle of somebody's hair, but I'll explain why it's important to have in this particular look. And you'll notice I'm not going all the way to the end. I'm leaving out a couple of millimeters there, just so that's our front hairline, okay? And then with that, I'm going to go back to where my elevation was for that bottom piece and just bring that in and connect that into there. And the reason I don't take that all the way to the front is otherwise you're going to have little bits in the hairline. It's going to be a little bit ugly and it's going to connect in with the fringe, which we don't want it to do. So the reason those short bits are in there is stability. This is all for stability and support. So there's our first area of disconnection, just running in there, tiny little piece. Now we move to this box here on this top bit and we go back to our original shape. Just quickly, who was it who asked that question about the elevation in the side? Did that answer your question? I can't stop thinking about it.
It was me, and yeah, it did. I just didn't know if we could lift it up to a certain degree, because it's a creative cut. Obviously, you can kind of like, you know, break the rules.
Yeah.
But I didn't know if, because obviously on the same side, we kind of want it to look similar. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if we could pull it up to a certain point and it would be exact.
Absolutely. Thank you, Daisy. That's a cracking question. Yes, there are rules and things like you said there. It's creative, so we want it to look a bit similar, but we can be a little bit crazy if we want to be. I don't like working in degrees. I'm never really one for saying to somebody it's got to be 50 degrees, and if it's not, I'll get my protractor out and I'll have a look. I don't think it should be that sort of way round, especially on level 3, but you're working off the densities and the thicknesses. So you're using your professional opinion to say, this is a bit too heavy, I'm going to elevate higher, if that makes sense. So cracking question, that sort of kind of stumped me really. I like that. I like people who ask questions that I don't know. It's good. And I've got Aisha here today again, so if there's something I don't know, swing a question over to her, she'll definitely know. So we are coming now into our top box. I haven't done anything on my head sheet because it's going to be a bit confusing at the moment. So we're going to do again. So we're going to come from this top point here, and I'm going to do another nice curved section and just connect that into my front piece. So if I spin her, you'll see, hopefully. And now I want to build some weight again. I want to start to build some length into here, because overall, when we style this off, I don't want it to be too round. I want to keep a nice bit of shaping here. So I want the hair to almost stack and come right out here when I'm styling it out at the end and making it this editorial look that we're going for. Okay. So now I don't want to go round on the head. So back to what we were saying about the elevation is, if we're looking at our expanded shape, at the moment we're coming in here, and then we've got a big short bit in here, which is the stability. But if I start to follow that shape of the head, we're just going to have like this big curly mess. So I want something now to elongate my length and create that sort of 3D vision into here. And then that allows us to do something quite wacky in the fringe. So I'm going to start in the back because I still want this to be quite nice and light. So my elevation is quite high. Her head is up now, okay? And I'm going to point this through into there. And if I come back around this side, I'm now going to lower my elevation again, just off the top of that point of shortness, and really point this down. So I don't want it to be too severe at all in terms of a line. And start to tuck that in. Excellent. And then I'm going to do another small section coming up. So again, from my point, and you could do this in one big section, but you're going to have a big chunk. So it's probably best not to. But if you push for time, then absolutely fine too. So again, elevation nice and high in this little back section because I don't want too much weight on my graduation. And if I wasn't videoing, I'd be stood right in front of the camera. This is not a great way to show you technique, but I'd be stood right there. So no good for videoing, is it really? So we're gonna, now again, as we're coming into the side, we're just gonna lower our elevation slightly and start to tuck. And again, lower that elevation and just bing that away. Okay, again, all ignoring this, ignore this, all right? Don't look too much at that. We're only looking at our internal shape. So the externals are not the issue at the moment. That's not where we're looking to be, all right? And then we're gonna go short again, okay? So I'm gonna take a small section in there. Next up. And we're gonna do another little short bit of disconnection in here. And because they're so small, the guest isn't gonna really notice them too much in her haircut. You can do it massive, so she does, and that would be really cool to be fair, having some really, really short bits. But I've never really been brave enough to do it on one person, just in case. But these short bits here, they're just all our stability. Okay, so again, it's another fine piece, another very fine section just running up that side bit. And just be quite unforgiving with it, really. Just take it in. Yeah. So again, we're gonna soften that down. A nice strong club cutting technique. I'm gonna make that a bit bigger, actually. Be a bit brave. It is on a mannequin, and I don't know whose mannequin it is. So let's take it off. So, again, I'm keeping a little bit of a couple of millimeters of length in the front so we don't see it in the front. That is quite important. I don't think she'd be too happy with me if she was sort of out in a club and she's got her hair sticking out the front. That's not really going to go down too well. And then my last section here, I'm going to create some more shape to it. So we're going to just take this all down in one, lift her up nicely. And where's my guide? Guide's down here. So just start bringing that shape off again. Okay, so we're keeping softness down here, but in there's all little bits in there which just give it some creative structure and some nice stabilities. So that is, why is she not staying on very well? So if I bring her in, lift her up, if we texturize that up a little bit, it's quite a curly blot, this.
I have a question.
Yeah?
Are you slowly elevating higher as you go up in sections, or are you keeping it the same kind of thing?
Good question. I am ever so slightly lifting higher. Because if I don't, it's going to be too big of a triangle, isn't it? So you almost want that to lift, which almost inadvertently rounds it slightly. So yes, I am just elevating slightly higher each time. Andra, correct as well. They are just to push the sections up when it's dry. That's all they're in there for. So disconnection doesn't just have to be something to take weight out. It can be something to shove it up. So I don't want this being flat. I'm not going to do much of a blow dry on it, really. I'm just going to get a bit rough dry. I'll probably use a brush, but not a round brush. But I just want that to give it that height and that effortless stability. So yeah, perfect. So now we're going to come into this next side, and we're just going to do the exact same as we did before. So I'm not going to mess about because you already know what we did. So again, from a point, I'm going to run that down. And this first section in here, if we remember, was quite heavy, wasn't it? So this first side, we just connected in here. And then our elevation went lower. And we club cut that in. And lifted slightly higher just behind the ear. I'm going to check the balance just to make sure. Phew. Balance is okay. So now if we remember again, from our point, we came through with our second section and just left that small piece in there that we took really short, but this we came higher with, okay? And then just started to point that down, all right? Lift high, and then, can you see that? I don't know if you can. Let me lift her up. And then, as we came in here, we started to elevate, to take that weight out, okay? So as Michaela was saying just there, we're elevating our sections slightly higher, just to make sure that we don't have a real big point knocking around in the internal shape, okay? Then this little one here, as Andrew says, just gonna give it support, all right? So again, I'm gonna start from this end because otherwise I'm gonna drop half of it. Leave that little millimeter out in the front and take that down. And run that into this top piece. There goes my comb. Damn. So, I drop my comb all the time. It's very unprofessional. I do apologise, but those who work with me know I drop my comb all the time. So those who don't, I'll drop my comb when we work together. That small section that you're cutting down is it to push up tip sections. Oh, you've already read that one. Yes, Andrew, again, correct. So, bit all over the place today. So, next section here, you can see we've got a little short one in there if I spin it around and show you. And we're gonna now go again from this point, all right? So, that was a nice diagonal section there and slightly curved. And again, we started to keep this really high in the back. I want to keep my weightlessness through here, okay? And then we started to bring it further down again, didn't we, if you remember? Because we built that roundness, and now we want to create that sort of more blockiness or the triangulariness into the front. I don't think they're words, but they work quite well. We want to keep a bit of length in there. Okay, all the while double checking with our balance, so making sure that our balance is sitting nicely. Difficulty with being in the theory room is you don't have mirrors, which are always a nice thing to work with, as you all know. So next section, again, this was quite long, so we lift high, take our shape, and then start to build that corner up again. And then this one was small, wasn't it, if I remember? So the next one was small, and then we have one more section. So again, from that point, it was a bit of a bigger one though, wasn't it? I'm going to do the same. I'm going to do a bit of a bigger one, see how it goes. I don't know how it's going to look, to be honest, but hey ho, it's creative, so we can get away with that. So pick up that section, make sure it's all the section and nothing more, because if we take too much, we're going to be destroying our shape underneath. That'll do. It's a bit big though. There goes my cone. Get my third one. And we're just going to take this shot. So again, this one came in nice and short again. Okay, so in here, just get rid of that. And again, for this front piece, just leave a millimeter or two out in there. Okay? And then our last section here was back and elevated into the corners. Okay? Any questions at all? Anybody got anything they want to know? Or anything they don't understand? Or am I going too fast? Speak now. No? Perfect. Okay. So, checking our balance, checking our shape, checking everything's okay.
Sorry, Rob. Is the head tilted forward? I'm a bit blind. I can't see.
No, it's directly upright now. So when we started, it was forwards, and then we just sort of tilted it up a tad. Okay. Just because I think if we're trying to take weight out and the head's forward, it's a bit difficult to really get it, because you could be on your layering, and then when she puts her head up, it tilts the head back. So even if we're building a little bit of weight in terms of graduation, I still have the head up. But it's not wrong if the head's down. It doesn't make it incorrect at all. It's just a way I feel more comfortable. Okay, so we're now going to go into this little triangle here, my little fringe piece. All right, so this is really I've dropped 3 cones today. I've only been cutting for 45 minutes. This is the bit I want completely disconnected from the rest of it. So I like this. This is quite cool. I think when it styles out, it's going to be quite soft. Is my balance off there? Ooh, the balance is off. So I want this to be now like a nice little dinky fringe. Okay. So I'm going to cut my fringe in first and then finish it at the very end. My idea with fringes is that you cut fringes, if you're going from a fringe which is this length, quite long, and you want it to come up nice and short around the eyebrows or above the eyebrows or just below, something like that. Cut the fringe wet, long, and finish the fringe dry. And my reason for, you can do it the other way, it's not a big problem if you don't, but when you're using a brush to blow dry, you're blow drying this bit of the fringe out because the width of the brush, yeah? So that's drying forwards, and then you start to bevel it down here. So it's dry, you think, well, it's dried nice and smooth. That when you cut it up short, the fringe is gonna bing forwards because you've dried it straight, okay? Really big issue that a lot of people, then the client's sitting there thinking, oh God, what have you done? Your fringe is all sticking out. So then you've got to wet it down and dry it again. It just saves time. So cut your fringe wet, long, then finish the fringe dry, okay? So I'm gonna do a basic fringe. This is not gonna be the finished fringe, just to let you know. But I'm gonna come in and I want this to be nice and soft, nice and choppy. So I'm just gonna hold it with my fingers and I'm gonna just hack away, okay? It's not a very level 3 hairdressery term, just hack away, is it? Get rid of some hair, it's probably better. So that's quite a nice enough length, and then we'll doctor that down later, okay? So I'm gonna blow dry. Take a 15-minute break, all right? Get yourselves a coffee, a tea, or pop outside if you need to pop outside. There's no point really watching me blow dry because I'm just gonna do something soft, a little bit messy. I'm going to use my 9-row vest brush. People who know me know that this is my favourite, and if they melt it when they use it, I wouldn't be happy. So it's sort of like a vest brush or a Denman, but it's a little bit softer and got little bubbles on the end, so it doesn't really hurt the guests too. And it's a lovely way to blow dry. It gets the hair nice and smooth. I don't want to build any additional volume or any additional shape into the hair when I'm blow drying. So it's going to be something quite, just quite textured, quite soft really. All right. So take a break and be back in about 15. All right, lovely. Lovely. Was that 15 minutes? Break time? What time did I start? Back in 2 minutes, people.
Rob, would you put any product in that hair before you dry it?
You can. You can put like a heat. Yes, most probably. Product that would be really good is like a moussey thing or something to give it a bit of a tap to it. The reason I haven't is just because it's a fresh block, so I don't want to stack it full of product, and then next week when we do our final stuff that's going to be quite a smooth look, it's going to ruin the shapes or ruin the look. So technically, yes, I would always have put something in there like a mousse or something to give it this stability naturally. Because you've got those shorter bits in there, you'll always be good to put something in there to give them a bit of a hand. So yeah, absolutely. What would you use? Is there anything in your salon that you'd say, oh, that could be quite a good little product to use? Have you got anything?
We use the Kevin Murphy range, and there's one styling product I would have used called Bedroom Hair.
Okay.
And that would give it quite a nice look.
Good, yeah, perfect. It's anything like that. There's sort of salt sprays that you can use in Kerastase range as well. Is there a salt spray in Kerastase? Or is that more sort of Red Kenny brand? It wouldn't be Kerastase. It's all got something. To just give it that sustenance. I mean, this is quite fine, so I'm surprised it's actually standing up like it is. But yes, you're right. You would stick some stuff in there. I'm going to use sprays and things in a minute, but it's just going to aid your work. All products really are there for is just to aid yourself and to aid your work. So yeah, well said. So firstly, I'm going to come round to the back and just do my outlines because this looks a bit untidy in the base. I mean, I'm quite happy with the way that's sitting, but we're going to style it in a minute. So bear with me. But here, now that we've left all of that length with our elevation, it gives me a chance to be quite creative here and quite soft with my base. So I want this all to just sit all nice and soft. All right, this is a soft shape. It would be really weird if I came in and done something really severe and really sharp, okay? So what I'm gonna do, you can use a razor, you can use anything you want really to do this, but I stick to scissors. So just come really deep with your point cutting, okay? You want to still keep a bit of length down here because I think that's quite cool down there, but just make sure you don't cut yourself is the overall thing. So just a bit freehand, just work that shape in. And because you've left all of that length from the base of the hairline in this back bit, it allows you to just bring some softness into the nape. That's it. If you like sharp, I mean, I love sharp outlines. I think sharp outlines in hair, especially creative work, because you'll have seen, if you've seen a few of my videos over this little period, sharp outlines for me, they're fantastic. I love doing them. I love seeing something form in the mirror that's just really sharp and really severe. But sometimes things don't really work too well with them. But if you find that it would look quite nice, give it a go. As I say, level 3 in creative hair is not about trying to please other people other than you and your guest. It's just about getting something that you like and something that hits with your theme that you're working with. Really important that you connect with your theme. So now I say don't do this, so I'm breaking another one of my rules, but I'm just texturizing down here a little bit and just sort of stabbing at the hair. I always say to people, don't do that because it's not really going to be a very good technique. But once you're working in level 3 and you're working to create texture, who cares? If it works well, okay? So it's really what you're looking for. And then just in the sides here, just to clean that up a little bit, just texturize that down. And the same around here. So, let's spin her around. Ooh. So that's one area you've got to be very careful, is your balance. If you're sitting in salon and you say to your guest, oh, how's that with your back mirror? She says, is it longer on one side? You're in trouble. I've had that a lot of times. It's not good, so you've got to make sure you check that. I'm just going to stuff it all in here now, so just pick pieces up and just start texturizing down in there and there. And then in these two pieces too. So all in there hidden now is my short bits. You wouldn't know there's little shorter bits in there, would you? They're not sticking through and they're not poking out. And just because we've not done that little area in the front section in there, there's no little bits hanging out of here. But now we need to do something with the front, because the front does look a little bit heavy. So it doesn't look too creative at the moment. It doesn't look too soft. It doesn't look too edgy in terms of all in the front piece. So now we're going to get rid of this fringe, okay? So I'm going to do my line on the fringe first, and then I'm going to do my internals of the fringe, okay? So get the length and then do your internals is my way of working. So I'm going to just separate or find my fringe first of all, and lift up, pop it in your comb. And I want this to be nice and soft. And just point the whole way through. And just allow her face to just open up and connect in with that soft side piece. So it's quite a visual sort of thing, this really, isn't it? There's not really technique to it. It's just visualize where you want to go and just point it in. But by pointing, you're almost cutting into the hair a bit more. Just going to shut the door. There's someone right there. Yeah, having a look. So, going to come into here and just finish off the pointing. Keeping that softness in the fringe. And then to get the softness more into that fringe area, I'll open it again because you can't see it. Hopefully you can't see it, the light's shining down. So you can watch. And then I'm just going to elevate this whole fringe piece here and just point down into the top of it. I don't know if you can see, so I'll spin it round. And again, lift high, because I want all of that softness down. And then lift again. It's quite textured now, which is quite cool. So when we're styling through, if it's something really quite editorial and quite sort of avant-garde-y type of technique, you want to almost show off what you're doing and show off the technique that you've created. So by having that height and having that stability to the hair that you've built in your technique, come around and show that off and allow your shape to really form. As I say, it's creative, so it doesn't matter if people don't think it looks quite good, because somebody will. Somebody will think, blimey, that looks fantastic. So you're doing it for you. As long as it connects with the theme you've created and there's an area of your mood board that sits really nicely with it, and you take inspirations from different things in the world or different people, or you see something done that you think, that's bloody good, I'm going to give that a go, then give it a go. So where I worked, there was a lot of areas in hair where you'd have it nice and soft, and then you'd fray bits out and you'd soften bits up and just show that really nice technique that you formed. Looks like she's been dragged for a bush, really, doesn't it? But as a creative technique goes, you've got all that stability from those shorter pieces that we've created, all of that disconnection in the look, and then something to just give you that little bit more overall control and overall status in the hair. Just that little fringe piece in the front to really open up that face shape and create her beautiful, beautiful flow of her face shape. It's really cool. So if I spin her around now, we can see how tight that sits in the base, okay? But the stack of length, this is so long in here that it just supports and stacks the whole way through. The softness and shortness all in here. So when we want to get in there and give it a bit of a texture up and give it some movement, it works quite nicely, but it doesn't sit out of shape from the rest of the look. So still got that really nice control the whole way around. And then similarly in this side here, you could do something different in here. You could do something really sort of sharp up this side, so you have some real softness one side and then really smooth and sharp the other side. You could leave your fringe a little bit longer, so you can have a little side fringe or something to fray out in the front is always quite cool. But working with softness is just it's your own preference. It's what you like. It's where you want the hair to sit, okay? So I always say play around. When you're going shorter with your mannequins in creative hair at level 3, play around with it. Get that up here somewhere. I once did a shoot on my own creative show it was, and we did a reverse grad where everything was getting longer, so the hair was right out here towards the end of it, and it was quite amazing. But it's just thinking about it, seeing how big do I want this hair to be. Hair doesn't always have to be smooth and clean and sharp outlines. It can be quite textured. Okay, so hope you all like it. Is there any questions or anything like that? Thank you, Val. Thank you very much. Any questions at all, or anyone got anything they want to know, or what anyone would do slightly differently with it? Is there anybody got anything?
I have a question.
Go, yeah.
With the fringe, did you just cut it freehand? I missed that part.
Yeah.
It's like...
Yeah, so basically just freehanded it in, and then round layered it up, or pointed it and just softened it through.
Did you section it in parts or just
straight in? So because it's soft, it's soft. So I never wanted it to be too severe, and sectioning it off is just a little bit severe. So I always thought when you're doing softness in something, just get through it, just do it and see how it looks. It's not a very good way to tell you as an educator, but just freehand. Yeah.
Freehand it, yeah. Thank you.
Anybody else got anything?
Is there anything different you would have done with the fringe without like keeping it soft but making it look a little bit more not neat, but do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, a little bit more salon friendly almost.
Yeah.
Just leave some length. So you could have left some length down in down into here and just had like a little round fringe, something like that, and just had a little bit of softness. So you had your fringe as your focal point, and then your softness, or you could even smooth this down and have a little bit more of a softer fringe, something like that. So primarily speaking, yes, you can just leave that a little bit longer into here, so it's just underneath our eyebrows, and then you can run something quite soft in the shape, so you've got a bit more fringe to go on. I mean, I've only put that in there so you've got the focal point. It's like the sweet and the sour thing that you put into food sometimes. You've got to have the mixture of both. So I've gone from the shortness and the long and the length to incorporate that softness. But yeah, definitely you can do something where it's a shorter fringe, longer fringe, sorry, definitely. Michaela.
I have another one.
Yeah.
So the way you cut it, will it be a drastic change once the client styles it by herself at home?
No, just jump out the shower, give it one of these, and it will sit. Right. Because of these short bits, if the short bits weren't in there, probably would be a drastic change. But because of the little two short panels we've got on either side, if they like the texture, then it can be created at home very, very easily. However, if they don't want it too styled after a while, say you do this for a shoot, and then they're thinking, oh, I want it smooth, the short bits aren't too short that they spoke through the hair. So it's sort of a mixture between the two. If you were to leave those really short, then they'd poke up.
Just poke up.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So because you leave a bit of length, it still has the stability. Basically, what it is, it's a high light graduated bulb with layers and a lot of texture. So when they move it quite soft, it's still going to sit quite nicely, but they can also get it quite textured.
Nice.
Answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Good, fabulous. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. Thank you all very much for joining. I hope you like it. If you don't like it so much, as I say, that's fine. And please do send me some texts as to say what you would do differently or what we should have done differently or what ideas you would have. All right. Thank you guys very much. I hope you're all